Hey, Husker fans, this is Sam McKewon along with Evan Bland, the Omaha World-Herald, Big Red Today, and Omaha.com. We're doing our Spring Football Preview videos, and this one is on 7 players who have the chance to spring it forward. 7 players we'll be watching in spring to see what they're able to do on the field and if they can make a move in camp. Evan has compiled this list, and he is going to go first. Who's your first guy?
Start with Ramir Johnson, Sam. They're not in alphabetical order or really any kind of order, but it's just one guy that we'll start with at the running back position. And really, you could put that whole position out there as being a kind of a toss-up. But Ramir Johnson's been in the program for a couple of years now. He's gotten little tastes of action over the first couple of years, but this is an important spring for him, especially after not having one last year, to come out and show that he's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, that he has that first step burst that seemed to maybe be lacking at certain points so far in his Nebraska career. It's a wide open competition. His chances at earning playing time probably are not going to be better than they are right now. It's an important spring for him. And if he can step up and show what he can do, that can help solidify that position for the Huskers pretty quickly.
Logan Smothers is our second one, and that's obvious. Smothers has an opportunity to solidify himself not only as the number 2 quarterback on this team, but the future starter in 2022 and beyond. Obviously, Adrian Martinez will be the starter in 2021. That's of really no doubt. Smothers, who was a guy that Nebraska got really 2 years before he arrived, didn't get really a spring last year. This will be his first spring, and we'll see how he does. Certainly, Smothers has the ability to run the football. He's fast. He's tall. He kind of runs a little bit like Taylor Martinez used to. Can he throw the football? Can he consistently deliver the ball where it needs to be? And does he have chemistry with Nebraska's receivers? We're going to find out because he has not played a whole lot of football at NU. He hasn't had a lot of camp and a lot of practices to do it.
Next up, Noah Pola-Gates, safety. He is somebody who, if Deontay Williams and Markel Dismuke had gone on, he might have had a more prominent role this year. But as it is, he's able to settle in a little bit more in a reserve role. Myles Farmer would be another safety back there. But the Huskers really like how he's developed physically over the last couple of years. He was a hard-hitting safety out of Arizona in high school. Nebraska had to fight off a lot of high-end other programs to get his services. And now he's been around for a couple of years. What can he do as a reserve in special teams this year? How can he maybe step up in such a way that Nebraska feels like they have that safety position set in 2022 and beyond based on how he does this year? So it's a big spring for him to start to realize that 4-star pedigree that people saw in him out of high school.
Stay in the secondary and go with Nadab Joseph, who was kind of a late addition to Nebraska's 2020 recruiting class. And I think kind of spent last year acclimating to academic and athletic rigors at Nebraska. He didn't play a lot of football in junior college, was a highly coveted recruit out of high school, did not academically qualify. There was a period of time where he's going to go to Georgia. Then he was going to go to another school. He had offers from pretty much everywhere. It didn't work out academically. Went to junior college and is now here. I think the most important thing for Joseph is just to play some football. He hasn't had a lot of time, even in junior college, because he was banged up. So, but there's a legitimate chance he wins that cornerback spot opposite Cam Taylor-Britt. It's going to be a competitive room with him and Quentin Newsom and Braxton Clark. And we don't really know that much about Joseph, so we got to be careful about pretending that we're certain about the kind of player he is, because we've gotten in trouble doing that before. But I don't think they would have brought him on the program if he wasn't a guy who could play a lot back there. So Nadab Joseph.
Valdarius Payne's the next one for me. Whether you want to call him a defensive end or an outside linebacker, he's somebody who can put his hand in the ground for Nebraska. They feel like he can get after the passer better than most of the personnel on that defense. His is an interesting position. Sammy was a junior college transfer. I think one of the handful of real hits for Nebraska when it's recruited the JUCO ranks. Yeah. He's originally from Maryland and really came into Nebraska with very little time to adjust nutritionally or in the weight room. And now he's had a full year to do that. He does have a different skill set than a lot of players at those positions for the Huskers. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of change of pace he can bring. That's going to be important on those third down type situations. And as we saw last year, he started playing a little bit more on first and second down as the season wore on too. So you could see he started to earn that trust. How has he taken that next step in the offseason? And if he has, I think that adds a really interesting dimension to the Black Shirts this year.
Next up, Will Nixon, a guy that did not play last year because of a knee injury he suffered last summer, but he's a guy that you should not forget. I think Nebraska coaches really liked the direction he was going in before he got hurt. This is a guy who was a 2020 recruit, probably the least ballyhooed of the group, but I think Will Nixon is somebody who, if he's healthy, is going to rise to the top pretty quickly. In high school, he played running back and wide receiver. He's the son of a football coach who was previously at Baylor, and now it works for the Carolina Panthers. And so he knows the game. He knows what it takes to work hard and knows what it takes to be good at this. And I think Will Nixon is a guy that Nebraska is excited about. Last but not least, Evan, is
the Omar Manning, the most ballyhooed recruit, yes. Wide receiver recruit from that most recent class. People thought he'd come in. We thought he'd come in, make an instant impact with his size, with what he did at the junior college level, and it just never happened. Coaches often cited health reasons that he wasn't coming along. It's not altogether clear how much of those were physical, how much of those were, mental or off the field sort of situations for him. But now he's another guy who's been in the program for a year. And I think this spring is the perfect sort of on-ramp to what the season could be for him. Can he string together a handful of practices, 15 practices? Can he show that he's learned the offense? Because again, he has the physical tools. Those are certainly there. And I think that's a theme for the receiver position in a lot of ways. But he's kind of the headliner of that group. If he can show that he's healthy in mind, body, and spirit, and that he's learned what he can be in this offense, then suddenly Nebraska has somebody on the outside, sort of that outside receiver threat that they haven't really had maybe since Stanley Morgan a handful of years ago. So how he is able to acclimate this spring, I think will be really telling into what his role could be next fall.
Amen to that. Well, that's our 7 players to watch from a spring forward perspective. For Evan Bland, I'm Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald, Big Red Today, and Omaha.com.